probably here because Tzang invited you here to see and find out more about Zen-Mind filmmaking. Now, Tzang Merwyn Tong is a Singapore-based scriptwriter, educator, and independent filmmaker. An alumnus of Berlin Talent Campus in 2005, he has made 4 films that won awards and acclaim in Tel Aviv, Rotterdam, Montreal, Lund, and Los Angeles. His most recent film, FAERYVILLE, 2015, is Singapore's first dystopian teen movie and was selected to be the closing day film of the 2019 Central European Film Festival in Romania. FAERYVILLE, by the way, was just featured and on Netflix 10 days ago. Congratulations, Tzang. Anyone from FAERYVILLE crew, cast? Oh, congratulations. All right, so he is currently a lecturer at Republic Polytechnic School of Technology for the Arts, teaching visual storytelling and film appreciation. He is the founder and festival director of First Shots, a student-run film festival. So Tzang recently graduated from our program last semester, and I had the honor of seeing his drafts while he worked on his thesis and eventually grading it. And both my first marker and me agreed that his work is innovative, bold and courageous, definitely very critical and reflexive, and it was very innovative from a pedagogical perspective. So here's the program for this evening. For the first hour, Tzang will give a presentation on Zen-Mind filmmaking, and this will be followed by a Q&A moderated by Wesley Leon Arzu, over there, a lecturer here with broadcast media at the Putnam School of Film and Animation. At about 8 p.m., we can have another bio break or refreshments break for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back for the screening of 4 films, followed by another Q&A, and we should finish by 9 p.m. All right, I'm going to hand this over to Tzang.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Tzang Merwyn Tong. Welcome to 2023. Turn this on. I think all of us came from different places, right? We came in with different frames of mind. Came in with from work. Some of us came from school. Some of us came from different things. We are all coming in with different frames of mind, and I think in the spirit of the Zen mind, maybe can I ask for you all to begin participate in a little mini exercise with me, right? Let's just all keep our hands free. If you're holding on to a phone, just put it somewhere. All right, we don't have to be too accurate about things. All of us here are from different disciplines. Some of us are filmmakers, some of us are mindfulness practitioners. It's fine. I'll just like us to take 1 minute to do absolutely nothing. All right, starting from now. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. How did that feel? Was it boring? Was it nice? It's actually more for me as well, to bring me back to a certain kind of, yeah. But anyway, what is Zen? This is this question, right? I want to begin by saying that in no way am I some kind of a Zen teacher, right? Right now, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a film educator, and for a long time I've been an admirer of the Zen practice. But what is Zen? And what has it got to do with filmmaking? And this is probably something that a lot of you all will be thinking of. What does this presenter, Tzang, see in Zen that he can bring into filmmaking? And in his words, in his advertising copy, says he wants to reinvent the practice. The structure for today goes like this: presentation, followed by a screening, followed by a post-screening discussion with the filmmakers. Well, Zen is one of the hardest things to define, isn't it? There are many people here with different entry points into this. Well, what is this thing that we talk about, Zen? Some people call it that it's about stillness, that it's just about nothing or doing nothing. Is it really that? There are some definitions that talk about it in terms of like it's about the in-breath and out-breath, and just that, in-breath, out-breath. There is a Rinzai school of thought that talks about Zen as the sound of one hand clapping. Oh, there's another definition. I think the problem or the unique, interesting thing about Zen is that there are different ways of explaining it to different people with different levels of understanding. And that's the reason why sometimes the Asian masters, the Asian teachers, often approach this with a sense of paradox and riddles. They do it with koans, riddles, and tell you about what's the sound of one hand clapping. And then the person goes like thinking, oh, what's that? That's because why? Because in the Asian tradition, we are aware that words itself is only the finger pointing to the moon. Finger pointing to the moon. The words itself is only something that points you to the thing, and it's not the thing itself. So if I tell you anything and you would to define it by the words itself is definitely not the thing. That's the reason why the Asian masters do that. But for the purpose of today's presentation, I do not want to be so abstract with you about it. I want to at least be constructive with all of us here, not necessarily people who want enlightenment, right? Just people who want to understand what is this about so that we can talk about film. I like this definition from Richard Collins. Maybe it's the Western scholars that define it better. All right? The Western scholars call it, at least Richard Collins here in this book called No Fear Zen, he calls it living non-dualistically in the here and the now. What's non-dualistic? Non-dualistic means it's not me and the other. There is no other. The other is me. It's not the beginning or the end. The beginning is also the end. The process or the outcome, the process and the outcome is non-dualistic. Shunri Suzuki calls it not one, but not two. So you see, that's also an Asian perspective, an Asian master trying to explain it. But what it is also is not, and it also is. I promise you, I will not be too paradoxical about it. Where did it come from? It originated from India. It was Bodhidharma from India. Bodhidharma, in Chinese you call him Damo. Alright, Bodhidharma brought this kind of his vision of Mahayana Buddhism to China, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, China. He calls it Chan, and for a long time Zen was Chan. There was a lineage and passed to the sixth patriarch of China, Huineng, and only later there are people like Dogen who brought it to Japan, and Zen as we know it became the version that we understand in Japan and Korea. There are different schools, Rinzai. Essentially, it's a school of thought that emphasizes on looking beyond scripture, all right? Emphasizing on the value of intuition and meditation over ritualistic worship and the study of scripture. Buddhism was becoming a little bit scholarly, like based on text, based on scripture. And then this guy says, nah, forget the scripture. It's all inside. Look in. What did the leaf tell you? What did the sand on the floor tells you? It is non-dogmatic, non-conceptual, non-spiritual, some even say it's non-intellectual. So you don't approach Zen with the intellectual mindset. I like Alan Watts. Alan Watts poses it. It's a way of liberation. Concerned not with discovering what is good or bad or advantageous, but what is. Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese monk, Zen monk, who recently passed away, used the term using the dustness and the suchness of things. The dustness and suchness. Alright? So it's not uncommon to hear of Zen or art inspired by Zen practice. We have architecture, we have gardening, we have archery, photography, bonsai. But then Zen, he wants to talk about film. Gardening, I garden myself, right? Kung Fu, I can do it myself. Archery is just me and the bow and the arrow. But you want to talk about film and Zen? What? You're going to work with so many people. What is cinema? Let's talk about cinema first. What is cinema? Cinema is this. It's more than just a technological marvel, more than just a technological breakthrough. It's more than just 25 frames per second or photography in 25 frames per second. They realize that when you take a photograph 25 frames per second, it's not just about the image. You're able to capture life. With life, you capture humanity. And it communicates emotions, meanings, ideas. The cinema is the telling of stories with the moving image. It's about the expression of consciousness, ideas, beliefs, the intangible, the dream. So what you see, the image itself is not the thing. You can capture things that you can't touch, like fear, memories, aspirations, the human imagination, and we all want to be part of it. So many artists want to be part of it, but the filmmaking process is complex. It involves a complex interplay of various, multiple, different artistic disciplines like script writing, casting, production design, all of which are big giants on their own, all of which are very complicated process, but at the same time, any one of them is a small fragment of filmmaking. Ooh, I'm talking about how everything is also conditional. We need to do this so that we can have this, so that we can have this, and nobody's allowed to do the next thing until you have something. So now filmmaking becomes very entangled, very conditional. You must have funding or finance. In order to have finance, you need to compromise on something. You need to have product sponsorship. You need to have a crew that's available. You want a crew, you need to have more money, and everything becomes entangled in this big entanglement, major entanglement that is about creating something of a future outcome that exists in the future. So I've often said, okay, maybe this picture first. This is a picture of me in 2012. This is a picture of me at my most vulnerable. I was making FAERYVILLE at that time. FAERYVILLE today, now Netflix. But at that time, this was my third shoot. Laura is with me. Laura's here as well. Laura was my AD on set, so she knows. I was so vulnerable. I was so uncertain. It was a film that I didn't know if I could complete. It was a film that I promised a lot of people a lot of things, and a film that's about to die. I'm going to see it die. And knowing that I'm about to die with owing a lot of money and yet not have a film. I realized I've often talked about passion and greed and sacrifice to my students and how you need to have all of this to in order to make a film. But is passion, greed and sacrifice the only thing or all that what filmmaking is? This is me being very self-critical of myself, where everything that I said I believed in, I'm now, for the purpose of my thesis, for the purpose of masters, let me question Tzang. You said passion, greed, sacrifice. But I'm not alone. It comforts me to know that other directors are talking about it. Alejandro Inarritu talks about how filmmaking can give you everything, but at the same time take everything away from you. It can remove you of your own identity, your own finances, your own reputation. Every film that you make could be the last film that you make, whether or not you're James Cameron, or you are an indie director, or you are a no-name director. James Cameron perpetuates this thing that how filmmaking is not just about directing and shooting. You also have to do the hustle. You have to cajole, you have to flatter, you have to tell them what needs to be done. You have to do all these human things. To the point that I realized the hustle takes priority over the art of storytelling and filmmaking. And as a filmmaker, the attitude of practicing for its own sake is something I envy in other art forms. If you're a dancer, if you're a painter, when you with a brush and when you paint, you are painting. You are engaged, you're one with the art. When you're dancing, when you're a musician, even if the record button is not on, even if it's not a recording of a music performance, when you are playing, you are one with the art. The filmmaker is not one with the art. When he is writing for a future outcome. The writing itself is not the art. When he's casting, the casting itself is not art. Even when you're shooting, even when you're editing, you're always in the future, never in the present, never in the now. And that leads to fatigue. That leads to sacrifice. As a teacher, I have a problem. I realized that my best filmmaking students graduate with great films, but whispering to me, I don't want to make films anymore. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. The guy who is not talented is earning more money than me. I'm cursed with my own talent. I don't know where this is going. Sometimes you feel like you're going nowhere, and everything is not dependent on my skills, but somebody else's decision or what they see my value as. So the artist doesn't belong to himself. I want to be successful, so much effort just to start. It's not about funding, all of this. How can filmmaking be less conditional, less dependent, and free for entanglement? How can filmmaking be more present, less fatigue, and made in the here and now? That was the question that I asked myself. To do that, I tried to turn to things that I was already familiar with. This whole Zen thing, I like, but cannot how to bring to filmmaking. So I tried to look not just only at at the Zen text, but also from an applied Zen perspective. I read on Zen writings, on Zen literature from not just philosophers, theories and scholars, but also neurologists, psychotherapists, psychologists, meditation teachers, wellness teachers, peace activists, Thich Nhat Hanh. I like Thich Nhat Hanh because he's not just a monk, a teacher in a temple. He was at the front of the war, right? And he had to do something about it. How do you be Zen in that space? So I extracted things that I could use. How can I apply it in the methodology? I extracted the term or concepts like minimalism, non-attachment, being in the here and the now. Quite self-explanatory, right? In order to make them more film, I researched on existing film movements. The Dogma 95, I think the cinema people here would recognize this. Dogma 95, Danish film movement in the 90s focused on the elimination of technology in search of cinematic truth, some kind of being against the Hollywood system so that they could tell something with European cinema. There's no wave cinema, people who understand the whole punk ethos, the punk rock ethos, the punk and bohemian ethos. They choose to go micro budget, low budget, and they try to take on the punk ethos to do anything that is subversive. Because I don't take anybody's money, I create things, explore the raw, avant-garde, libidinal fantasies, the raw values of the underground. There is also something else very different. All three are minimalist but very different. There's also the Romanian New Wave, for which I was inspired when I was there in Romania in 2019. And they are reacting against state propaganda. They have just survived communist rule, revolution, and for a long time they are caught up in this cloud propaganda. And in order to use state money, you only can make one kind of films. And in order to not use that money, they have to work with the minimalist. So they value authenticity. Everything is real, nothing is fictional. Everything is so real. So you have fantasy, real, you're standing up against Hollywood. Can the principles in Zen philosophy help us to create our own manifesto? Minimalism, non-attachment, being in the here and now. Can the philosophy change filmmaking? Can a filmmaker still make a film using Zen principles? And the other question is it still a film? Let's talk about the methodology that I created. I decided to expand on this thing. There is the non-attachment, being in the here and the now. How? Let's have filmmakers make a film with a plan, but not be fixated by the plan. The end product is allowed to look different from what was planned. Being in the here and the now, to use the existing conditions. Don't try to find more things. I want to make a film, I don't need to find money first, find cast first. I just look at what I have, what I can use, and I do with what I have. To work with the as-is, the thusness and the suchness of things that is in the now. Let's try. And then how do you, that's already minimizing. Maybe I will create a perimeter for them. I'll give them a 4-hour shoot and a 4-hour edit. This is even shorter than the whole 24-hour film project or the 48-hour film project. Just 4 hours. You're allowed to prepare, of course. But after that, it starts then. This is limitation 4 hours. It's no different from a meditation exercise, right? I give you a certain time, 45 minutes, 1 minute, 2 hours. And maybe in that 2 hours, it's not good meditation. Half the time, your mind is dreaming. But it's okay. At the end of 2 hours, it's over. So maybe it's this mindset that I created. So how will this Zen-Mind film look like, and is it still a film? There's the question. If I want to be really critical as a filmmaker, as a film teacher, will it be too random? Is Zen an excuse for you to just shoot anything and say, let go, ma? You're supposed to let go. You're just supposed to, whatever happens. What if minimalism becomes an excuse for work that lacks effort? What if it becomes an experiment performed like a feat? Yeah, I can do it. I want to show you that I don't have money and I just do it as a feat. So it's not about the art anymore. I'm just trying to show you that I can. It becomes competitive. How many reps can I do? Will this mindfulness compromise filmmaking? Will the film still be considered a film? So I wanted to be critical about it because the project is in service of film, not in service of enlightenment. I want to make films. So for the experiment, I conducted 2 cycles of the experiment to test the methodology. I worked with different filmmakers of different levels of experience. I visited them on set. I conducted interviews, pre-shoot, post-shoot and post-edit. I wanted the filmmakers to keep a journal so that they can document things, insecurities, doubts, anxieties, confusions. I want the cheat codes. I give you the limitations, right? How do you cheat? And ways of getting around limitations. I created a manifesto. I think it's too much to go philosophical on them. Zen is non-dualism. What are you talking about? I just gave it a manifesto just to define what needs to be done and what are your rules and restrictions, because I want Zen-Mind filmmaking to still respect cinema and not take away from cinema what cinema can do. Extracts from the manifesto, there are words like this, that you're a filmmaker, you're aware it's an experiment, your being is part of the whole, you're aware of your presence in the universe. Filmmaking is both active and passive, and I don't care whether they understand or not. It's just this, right? More things, I'm aware that the experiment is 4 hours. I'm here to adhere to time, but I'm not worried by it. I accept time as a sureness, because time is a certainty in all aspects of life. I try to be unmystical about it. I will try to minimize anxiety that comes with time. Every moment is a present. I will make films with the vision. It's important because I don't want the films to be random. They must have an intent. I will create a film that is whole in itself. It cannot be a scene, it cannot be footage, and it cannot be randomness. It cannot be poetic. I will have a voiceover and I just shoot grass, shoot trees. Cannot. It must be whole. Even if you do all that, it must be whole. It must stand by itself. It must be its own thing. It must not need an explanation at the side in order to watch the film. The film must stand. So feel free later when you are watching the films, feel free to judge it with that critical lens. It is a film with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So findings and discussions. The first film, Cycle 1, I worked with Darshan. Darshan is sitting over there. You'll see him later. And these are things that I observe. I observe that, because Darshan is quite an experienced videographer, filmmaker, editor himself. So he understands the production process and he knows that, I have no budget, I cannot hire too many people. So I will work with, I notice, he worked a lot with the background. He worked with existing things. He used the architecture, the space. He chose a good location. So that's his cheat. He used his location to do the talking for him. He allowed the character to move a lot, interact a lot with the background. And I noticed that in this story, every time there are moments of high stress, it's all concrete and grey. Every time there's a moment of breathing, a moment of comfort, something nice, there's always green. There's always green in the shot. Whether is it intentional, I'm not sure. Is it presumptuous for me to see it? I think it doesn't matter. It's what I noticed. But Darshan was experienced. He planned. He thinks through things. So I wondered, does this experiment succeed only because he's experienced and he knows how to prevent things from falling? I wanted to have more cycles to test what if I work with people who are less experienced. So cycle 2, I wanted to identify what kind of films can come out of the Zen-Mind and how is it different from other minimalist movements. And I have Shafiq. Shafiq is a student, fresh graduate, not done, I think just doing his NS and about to go into the workforce and feeling very anxious about what lies ahead. And he came to me and says, I saw you do the Zen-Mind thing, I want to be part of it. I have a concept, but I don't know how to explain it to people. I don't want to explain too much. I asked him to write his intention down, and then he did this thing, and if you watch it later, it's very interesting. It's not entertaining. Now you can make a film that's not entertaining, but it's still a film. It's something there. And it's almost like a video diary, some kind of self-talk. And what I noticed about Shafiq's films is he likes to work with a lot of the storytelling is outside the shot. It's not what you see. You see the bedsheet moving, he's not in the shot. It's almost like the bedsheet is talking to him. Okay, something interesting there. I tried to plot it against a timeline to see whether there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there is some kind of emotion, even though it's not a lot, it's not big. It's this. He used a lot of space and time. Come on. We have another person, his name is Zach. Zach is a long-time friend of mine, and he was part of FAERYVILLE. He was helping out around the set. And Zach, by then, is already quite a seasoned independent filmmaker. He made his own films, won some awards. And he says, okay, he wants to be part of this experiment as well. I noticed Zach used a lot of the environment with him as well, similar to Darshan. He did a lot of planning, but he decided to hold auditions. Oh, I forgot to say something about Shafiq's film. Shafiq chose to act himself. And he's not an actor. He is not a, so he chose to act himself. So chose to put himself in front of camera. And he explained to me why, because he did not know how to tell an actor what to do. So he had to do it himself. Zach chooses to cast. Oh, wow. So this is the first time a Zen-Mind filmmaker decides to cast. So there's a casting call. People came on board. There's Zim and actors. And if I observe the strategy of Zach is that he talks to his actors a lot, so that on set he just does videography work and doesn't do any directing. There's a very interesting storyline in this one, where it's about who's lying to who, the questioning of truth. I'll just go a little bit faster. And we have met Matthias. Matthias over here, he is a non-filmmaker. He is a film. He's a film lover. He's a film critic. Hasn't made a film before, and he says he wants to be part of this. Oh, interesting. Zen-Mind. There's this book called Zen-Mind, Beginner's Mind. Can the beginner's mind bring something to filmmaking, and what can come out of it? I thought that was interesting to try. I had a conversation with Zen in the pub. Matthias in the pub, and I remember Def Leppard was playing in the background. He was telling me about how, to my mind, Zen is like grunge. Huh? How is Zen grunge? It's like this grunge, like this chaos. Wow. You want to make? Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it. So he did it, and he tried it. First cycle, he overestimated the complexity of filmmaking, and it failed. And it failed. It didn't work out. He left too much to let go, and he realized that it didn't work out. And I said, okay, great. I'll just document this, and this will be our research. He says, no, I want to do it again. Oh, you want to do it again? Really? Yeah, I want to do it again. And I decided to help him out a little bit. After he completed his script, I looked through it, and he did a second one. So there's 2 cycles of this, and it's amazing. It's an experimental thriller with very existential themes, and I was quite surprised why he chose to tell a story like this. Okay, let me go through this, because this is the most important. This is the real findings, right? That there is a relationship between the filmmaker and the film, and that's what we are trying to do all the time as filmmakers. And the relationship is direct and pure. And this thing is very self-motivational. You do not need Zen, you don't need a teacher, you don't need anybody. The desire to tell something from your mind is very it's self-motivating. It's almost like actualization to see your ideas onto a piece of medium. But with all these things come some kind of obstacles. You can see as obstacles, conditions, environment. It's how you see it. And the obstacles inevitably comes into the project to make the film with you. And if you see them as obstacles, they become fatiguing. 4 hours is fatiguing. If you drag it over 8 days, it's worse. You drag it over FAERYVILLE, took 8 years. And it leads to some kind of a, it's not about how heavy the cup is, but how long you hold on to it. And filmmaking is a very, very heavy cup. So fatigue in a relationship has got to do with control. It's not the obstacles, it's your desire to control the film. At least in traditional filmmaking, you're supposed to control the elements so that you can make a film of your vision. But what if I force you to allow the obstacles to co-control the film with you? So now there is co-creation. I noticed that filmmakers are more open to work with modes of serendipity in Zen-Mind filmmaking. They are willing to work with the environment, the background, use unexpected things. It reminds me of how is it like in Chinese paintings, Japanese paintings, where they put the character in the background, where they make use of negative space, where I don't draw the water, I allow the paper to be part of the water for me. I draw the shadows, and suddenly the water looks bright and reflective. Compared to Western paintings where the subject often dominates the background, I noticed that the shots are wider and that characters are part of the background. There's an Eastern thought of how when you, Eastern painting by Ma Yuan here, a poet drinking by the moonlight, and where's the poet? There, microscopic. And in a Western painting, the character often dominates the whole painting. And the Western painting often has this whole covering the background, whereas the Eastern painting uses negative space. I noticed the use of accidents a lot in the Zen-Mind film, how the here and the now is part of the story, how they're not hindered by the environment. This is a scene from Matthias' film. Matthias in his second shoot was terrible. The first shoot he didn't have problems. The environment didn't give him problems. He kind of like screwed up the shoot himself. In the second shoot, it was this thunderstorm and everybody's drenched. Take a look at this kind of drench, you know, like your pants get wet even with an umbrella kind of a drench. Technically, everything that he planned he couldn't do anything that he planned. And given the fact that he has already failed his first shoot, I thought that he would be distraught. And he had this kind of mindset, let's just go on, let's just use the rain, let's just use the sound of chicken, let's just use the sound of chicken disturbing the dialogue, the audio disturbances, the dog barking, let's all use all of this. The curtain fell just before the thing started. He tried to put it up and then later he started to keep the broken curtain in, so you can check it out. It reminds me of the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, right? Embracing imperfections. This bowl demonstrating kintsugi, right? Where you take the broken bowl and you make the imperfections part of the art. So I noticed that the films are more willing to enter into existential and philosophical conversations. The filmmaker tries to have a dialogue or conversation with the films, and they are willing to question what's real and what's not a lot. Maybe because when you take away all the entanglements, there's a little bit more time, the relationship between the filmmaker and the film becomes more direct. And instead of expressing with film, now the film is expressing something to the filmmaker. Same thing with other art forms, right? Dance, drawing, painting, music. The music itself speaks to you. And I noticed, this is a little bit cheap, that the story is in the image, but not in the image as well. Oh, what is he talking about? That the picture may not be nice, but the art is not inside the picture. There is a quote from French filmmaker and theorist Robert Bresson that talks about how to move people not with images likely to move us, but with relations of images. So images are now related to something, related to the image after, the image before, related to things that is not image related, like movement, pacing, rhythm. And I noticed that especially the newer filmmakers, Shafiq, Matthias, the less experienced filmmakers, do that a lot more. Oh, interesting. Matthias used a lot of pacing, rhythm, uses of time, dragging out a shot. Just want to move on a little bit faster. And most importantly, with my critical eye, I noticed that there's a wholeness and completeness to the films that are made. They're complete story arcs, and it's not like abstract, random footage. So, Zen is about coming back to the center. This is what I understand of it. So many different definitions: in breath, out breath, stillness, calmness, not doing anything, fetching water. All of this is not itself. It's even seated Zen, Zazen. It's not itself. It's not for the purpose of sitting. It's not for the purpose of breathing. It's for the purpose of bringing that being, our being, back to our center. And what is the center of filmmaking? The center of filmmaking is the act of doing, the act of making the film. What is the act of making the film? What is that? It is storytelling with a moving image. So what I intend to do with Zen-Mind filmmaking is to bring us back to the center, which is to tell story with a moving image, so that filmmaking can come back to its center. With that, I think I end my presentation. I'd like to take a moment to invite my friend. He is a published author, a filmmaker from 13 Little Pictures, and a film educator himself. His name is Wesley Aruzu, and maybe I'll invite him up and we can conduct the Q&A.